like your level one copywriting thing is like understanding NSBE and how to interject those emotions. It's like
when you submitted copy, the reason I brought that up is because you submitted copy and you did it like in your first week or so or something like that. And it's like, that's it. That's how you get better. That's the step. The other thing that you did in your submission was you use the Kyleisms, you use the labels that I use. In every line, you basically dictated what the purpose of that line was based on a label. And I said, if that dude can see that every line has a purpose and give it meaning, and like instead of just having like some people just write this flowery, fluffery bullshit.
Yep.
And it's like, you are wasting my time when I read that shit. It makes me so furious.
Nope.
So like that was when I saw you do that, a guy who had no clue what was going on. And this is how you tried to make sense of things with categorizations and labels. I was like, if I can get this dude to really internalize these labels, I can make this dude a 7-figure copywriter. Like I knew it. I knew it as soon as I saw it.
What was actually cool about it too, I only know, like I'm a born and bred Milliganist. I only know beats. I only know the lead elements. It'd actually be weird when we talk copy together because like I don't have I have my own opinions, but like everything stemmed here. So it's like I too. It's like he hit a left field grand slam over the fence, and I'm just like, skirt, like, no, you didn't. Like, we don't need like that, you know what I mean? It's like all like the wild stuff like that you see that people pepper in that try to add color and context, but it's the wrong color and context. Like if it's not like a NSBE piece, it doesn't really belong. Like, and that's like what's cool about like the whole system, the way you set it up, right? Like your level one copywriting thing is like understanding NSBE and how to interject those emotions. It's like, once you get those, now you can like move on to like beats. All right, well, how am I going to structure a long form sales message? So it's like you get this foundation of like the words. Everybody always reads a book. Like I've recommended your book like 14 bazillion times. Like, oh my God, it's mind blowing. And it is. But then it's like, that's step one. And that makes it look easy. But it's like, all right, now you got to put all these words in there with this structure and this format that, you know, shows someone there's this opportunity that exists in the wild. Actually, I'm going to do a quick pivot here. Who was the gal you had on the show?
Well, the answer is Donata, because if it's a gal, I've only had one.
She was awesome. I liked her. But you guys, she was talking about your heart, like, oh, we got to have a hard stance. I actually think the beats is a hard stance. Like you're like, oh, I kind of want to get away from like teaching or like develop the stance. I actually think the beats is the hard stance. And maybe you don't agree, but this is my own take on it. But it's like, no one gives a shit about your mechanism, right? Like if we think about how the copy flows, like the mechanism section is like the smallest part. It's 4 pages of a 40 sales, sales letter, 40-page sales letter. And the slide deck, it's like 8 slides at most, something like that. And it's like we talked about it. You spend the majority of the sales letter convincing them of the opportunity that exists in the wild. And I think that is a hard stance. So when everyone like talks to me like, oh, hey, I want to sell this thing that does this and this and this and this. I'm like, well, dude, no one actually gives a shit about like your system or your method or the way that you do it. They want to understand. It's so much easier to sell them if you just convince them that there's this thing that exists in the wild that is naturally shelling out cash. And then once they believe that, it's like, oh, well, how do I do it? It's like, here I do. I have this little thingy that does it for you. And like, yes, I'll sign up. I think that is a hard stance. Now, I don't know if you think the same way. And yes, it is like something that you would teach, but it's like, no one gives a shit about your mechanism, dude. Like,
do I agree? Well, fuck yeah, because that's like my whole platform. I made that up. That was my idea.
Well, right, but I'm saying like, you consider that a hard stance,
I think where it became a hard stance is whenever you put the phrase "no one gives a shit about your mechanism." I think that's something I could get behind, and I think the reason is because in a way, I believe it. I've never vocalized it in that way, which is that, like, I mean, you already said all the pieces I would use, like 10%. We attribute about 10% of our sales letter, a whole argument of 40 pages, about 10% goes to the mechanism. And a lot of those 4 pages are charts, squared images that fill up 30% of the page. So it's really only like 1 page of actual chattery about the mechanism and then demonstrations, like just the result. And honestly, the force of nature, is the most important thing, especially in like the way that I believe the world operates. I just need to get you I'm just parroting back to you. I just need to convince you the force of nature is both real and beneficial to you, and then you will demand the mechanism of me. I don't have to sell you on a mechanism.
That's right.
No one gives a shit about your mechanism. I could. There you go. We've come full circle. You've convinced me that I've been right this whole time.
Yeah.